Okay, this is lesson 1.9. We're talking about multiplying and dividing whole numbers. There are multiple ways to do it, so we're just going to briefly look at a couple different ways. The first way is paper and pencil. We can also use base 10 blocks, which are called manipulatives, or grids and geoboards. And I'm going to show you examples of each one. What you are to do is the easiest, what you find easiest. So it says, the head chef of a classy restaurant was asked to prepare meals for 3 groups of 5. How many meals does he have to prepare? Well, he did 3 groups of 5, so he could do 5 times 3 to get a 15. So he literally drew circles so that he could figure it out. So if you want, you can draw circles, or you can just do the multiplying on the calculator. So here are some vocabulary words we need to know. The first one is product. Vocabulary just means words we need to know. Okay? So the words we need to know, the first one is called product. The product is the answer to multiplying. Okay? So this is the answer to multiplying. So we get a multiplicand by a multiplier equals product. Or what we get is factor times factor equals multiple. Multiple is the same thing as product. Okay, so this is the way we look at it. We always know that a factor number times a factor number equals a bigger number, the product. So here we have factor times factor equals product slash multiple. Okay, so factor times factor equals multiple. Let's look at the pencil and paper method on the next page. If you are going to multiply using pencil and paper, this is the strategy, and we're going to describe it once. So you place the larger number on top. You line up the smaller number underneath according to place values. So you line it up on the right. Line up on the right side. Place values. The biggest thing to remember is that the biggest number goes on top, the smaller number goes on the bottom. And then we multiply. So when we multiply, we take 2 numbers at a time. So let's take a look. So Ethan, take a look at this one. I'm going to take the 5 times the 4, but I'm going to get 20. Where did they put that 2? What do you think?
Up top.
That's right. The 2 went up top. Whenever you get a 2-digit number for an answer, the 0 is going to flow down. So it's showing us we have a 2 and a 0. The 2 is carried forward to the next column. So then we're going to see on the next one, step 3. Step 3, now they're multiplying those 2 numbers. They're going to multiply first, and then they're going to add. So they're multiplying and then adding the 2. So they get 8 plus 2 is 10. So they get 10. Moving on, we're going to take a look at what they did with that number. So they got 10 and the 1 carried forward on the top. So on the next stage, they're going to multiply the 4 and the 1. Then they add that extra 1 they took there. So 4 times 1 is 4. They add the 1, and that's how they get the 500. So they've used that 4 number now. They've used the number, the bottom right. They've used that number on all 3 digits on top. Now they're going to do the same thing with the number 3. They're going to multiply it to all 3 digits on top. So take a look at the next page. They're showing us that now they're taking the 3. And the 3 they're multiplying here. We're getting a 15. The 1 is carried to the left. Whenever they carry it, the carried over numbers go to the left. Okay, so carried numbers go to the number on the left. On the next number on the left. So that's why, for example, in this question, that's why they're going to put the 1 on the 2 and carry it with the 2. They're not going to put the 1 with the 1. They need to put it on the very next number. They're not going to skip a number and put it over here. They put it on the very next number on the left side. Okay, so that's how you have to remember to carry your numbers. When you carry them, they move to the left, the very next number. So now they're telling us repeat step 3 and 4. So we're going to multiply this guy and then we're going to multiply that guy. So all together, this is what we end up with an answer. We end up with, and then we add straight up and down. We're adding. We add straight up and down. This guy gives us a 5. This guy's going to give us a 12. The 1 carries over. I add and get a 4. So that's exactly what has happened to those numbers. So they have multiplied by each digit above it. All right, so we can express it in numbers, or again, as we know, we can express every digit in words, okay? Word form or number form. Now, how would we do it? Look at page 4. How would we do it with manipulatives? What if they gave you base 10 blocks? How would you do it? Well, one teeny block would be a place value of 1. These guys, the 1's place is 1 block, 1 square. 10s is going to be a row or column of 10 blocks. Okay, so it's going to be a row of 10. So now if I wanted to see the number 3, they're showing us the number 3, they're putting it vertical. Here they're showing us 11. So they're showing us a base 10 plus a 1. 10 plus a 1. So they're basically going to be counting by 10s. So when you're using base 10 blocks, you're counting by 10s. Okay? So you're counting by 10s. So the number 34, I'm going to get 10 plus 10 plus 10. This 3 tells me I have 3 base 10 blocks. The 4 tells me I have 4 to the 1s. Okay, so you're looking at place values again. So this is the 1's place value, and this would be the 10's place value. So the 4 is the 1's, the 3 is the 10's. Okay, and that's what they're showing. So let's look at the bottom here. So they're showing us an example. What is the product, meaning the answer of 14 times 4? Well, they're going to put 14 blocks 4 times. So they did a base 10 and 4. And again, a 10 and 4, and a 10 and 4, and a 10 and 4. Now all we have to do is literally add them up. So how many 10 bases do I have? 4. 4, so that's 40. Now I got to add up all the little ones. Wow. So if I add up, I've got 40 52. Plus 16. Because I've got 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. That gives me 16. So 40 plus 16 gives me my 56. Okay? There's another way to multiply. Number 3 is using geoboards or grids. So this is a 2D object. If I just had squares, if you just had squares and you said, okay, I want to go 5 times 4. Well, you're going to go 5 squares across. Here's my 5 squares across, and then you would do your length or your width 4 squares down. So you're doing your length and your width. How many squares do you see? And then what's your answer? Your answer is always what's inside. So if I count the number of boxes inside, the number of squares, there's going to be my area of 20. So area, area is always multiplying a length times a width. And sometimes our lengths and widths are the same. In this case, we have a 5 times a 4 for a length and width. Now we're going to talk about multiples of 10. So just like those base blocks, those 10 base blocks, sometimes it's easier to round. So it says, when estimating, rounded to the nearest tens place is often easier to perform in your head. So when we look at the first example, it says, how many golf balls are there all together if every box holds 12 and you have 4 boxes? Well, you're going to take 4 times 12. Right. You're going to take 4 times 12. So that's 4 groups of 12. Okay. Now, if you wanted to round it, 12 rounds to 10. So 12 rounds to 10. So 4 times 10 is 40. So they're saying you get approximately 40. Well, we know for actual, in real life, we get 48. So our estimate is really close. Okay? Another time we estimate is when we're talking about money. When we talk about money, we tend to estimate as well. So we're going to round again to tenths. This one says 7%. Well, if we round 7% to 10, because 7 would round to 10, 10% of any number is just take off 1 0 or move your decimal. So 10% of this number, I move my decimal over there. So that means $2.40. So 10% is going to be approximately $2.40. You're going to move your decimal 1 to the left. Oopsie. Move your decimal. Okay. Now, they actually rounded 24 to 240. Do we have to round it to that? No, we don't. Now, you could be multiplying. We're talking about multiplying by tens. Whenever you've got zeros, however many zeros you're multiplying is the number of zeros you're going to see in your answer. So, the number of zeros in the question equals the number of zeros in the answer. Okay, so make sure you've got that part written down. Whoops, I need to erase that. UE, question. So, if we take a look at the first one, the number 4 doesn't have a 0, but 10 does. So there's 1 0 in the question. Their answer is going to have 1 0. So this guy has 1 0. So there's going to be 1 0 in the answer. If I look at the next question, the number 100 has 2 zeros. So my answer has 2 zeros. If you look at the next question, there's 3 zeros. So I've got 3 zeros in my answer. Now look at this one in the middle. Each number has a 0. Did that change my process? No. You still count the number of zeros. So there's 2 zeros on the left of the equal sign. That means there's 2 zeros on the right. Okay, so 2 zeros has to match 2 zeros. All right. Now we're going to divide. Dividing is the opposite of multiplying. Okay, so this is the opposite of multiplying. So it's like working backwards. Now, we can do it a number of different ways. They're showing to show it with the actual divide sign, and then you're writing the numbers left to right. So these are writing the numbers left to right. Whereas these ones write them top down. Okay? So that's what's going on, is they're writing them differently. Okay? They're actually writing them differently. So your answer to these is called the quotient. So a quotient is the answer of dividing. I don't need you to know all the dividend and divisor. The only 2 words I need you to remember are product and what's the one? Answer dividing, quotient. So there's 2 numbers you need to remember, quotient and product. They are opposites. Product means you multiply to get the answer. Quotient means you divided to get the answer. Okay? Now let's look at the next page. We could also do it in word form. Okay, so again, it is the opposite. So here they're showing how could we do that 48 cookies? Well, the 48 cookies, if I wanted to put them into groups of 12, because there's 12 kids in each group, how many cookies do I have to make? Well, if I've got 12 here, there's 12 in every column. You would add them up and you would get your 48 cookies total. No. Now we can easily do it on the calculator. So the calculator is even easier. The calculator is better. It is your mind in math. Now, if you can remember certain things, that's fabulous. Your mental math skills are super important. We're going to talk about paper and pencil. This is the way we've been taught to divide without a calculator. Do you need to be able to do this? Yes. But are you always going to have a calculator with you to check your answer? Yes. Okay. This is just showing you the longhand way to do it. Now, am I going to make you do it the longhand way all the time?
Probably.
No.
You know, I actually
I'm going to let you use the calculator.
I never actually learned how to divide properly.
Well, that's what we're doing right now. So we make an L and kick it over. So here's our L kicked over.
No.
Okay, we've got an L kicked over. We put our big number underneath. The little number goes out front. And now what we do, if it's a single digit, we divide it into the first number. Can we get 5 out of a number of 6?
Yes.
Yes, once. So I would put a 1 there, and I would put my 5 underneath, and then I subtract. I get a 1 left over. Will 5 divide into a group of 1? No. So we've got to bring down the 2. Okay? So that's what's happening, and they're showing us. So this step, they're showing it'll go in 1 time. We now subtract, and we get 1 left over. 5 doesn't divide into 1. 5 does not divide into 1. So that means you bring the 2 down. So you bring the next number down. And now you divide into those 2 digits. Turn your page, it's showing that. So that's what I mean. All these pages, it looks like a lot of work, but it's actually not. All of this is just explanation for you. So they're showing how they brought the 12 or the 2 down to make 12. Now we know that 5 will divide into 12. 2 times, it makes a 10. So I would put my 2 up there, I would get a 10, and then I subtract. Okay, I would subtract, and I get a 2 left over. And that's what they're showing right here. Okay, we get my 2 left over. Now, 5 doesn't go into 2. 2 is too small. I need the number to be 5 or bigger, and the 2 is too small. That's why they bring the 5 down. They bring that last number down, and now you're going to take 25 dividing into 5. And that's on the next page. So 25 divides into 5 times, and then we put our answer here, and we subtract it and get 0. So that means if I take my number 5 and I multiply it by the number on top, this checks my work. Check your work. So you're doing the opposite function. You're going to take the guy on the left and the guy on the top, and you're going to multiply them to see if you get the one number underneath. And if you do, you did it right. So check your work. Equals 6 to 5. It is identical to the number underneath. So you did do it right. Okay, so you check your work by doing the opposite function. We check it by multiplying. All right. That is the end of multiplying and dividing.